Chew! Hey guys, what's going on? It's the NRL Fantasy Fanatic coming at you round number 5 from round number 4. It's Wednesday night, almost midnight, as you can see from the clock down below. We are late. We are one day late. Usually we produce the video on Tuesday, get it out in that afternoon. However, this video will not be coming out until Thursday. Do apologize, but me and Simi have some very great news that we want to announce. We have officially had our first kid. It was a son, our boy Euan. Extremely excited to become parents. It's a big milestone for us. He came a couple of weeks earlier than intended, but he was healthy nonetheless. So we're excited. It just means my life is a little bit upside down, bit of a roller coaster right now, and I'm trying to sneak this video in before our next feeding session at 20 minutes. Well, in 20 minutes or so at midnight. So wanted to keep this video to the point, brief, sharp, hit the main points on the head. But I'm going to say this, guys. This season has been a very topsy-turvy fantasy season. All I can say is that in Supercoach, I've had mostly or largely the same player base, starting squad, and I'm in the top 1,000 in Supercoach. In fantasy, that just hasn't happened. There seem to be some players that really striked well in fantasy. That, a lot of you guys out there went for, the Crichton, Stephen Crichton, Tago from the start, the centers who generally don't score that well, absolutely blew everyone out of the water. So it's caught us a little bit on the back foot. In saying that, we're actually ranked 20,000th and 17th out of 163,000 players or coaches out there. And that's still pretty good. Reality is we still want to get it sharper at the top turvy end of the board. This was my team last week. The only difference being is that I had the Hammer, who I think got less than 10 as injured his PCL, and he's out for 2 to 3 weeks at least. So I've traded in Xavier Coates. I really did want to bring in Joshy King this week. He's got a break even of 9. He's averaging, 60, 50 plus minutes. I think given that he's a mid and he's probably going to be edge and mid very shortly. I think the fact that Bellamy came out earlier in the week and spoke about him very highly in the press conference, talking about how, Joshy King at Newcastle was this backfield player off the bench, running up the meters in the forward pack, but he could see him for the extra 1%ers that he did, and he likes the minute output, and he likes what he does for the team. Means we know he's going to hold the spot. Unfortunately, I just couldn't seem to bring him in my team. It would have been perfect. I had the perfect movement this week. Koula was going to be at fullback, filling in for Tommy Turbo. He was going to fill in that spot for Hammer. Hammer was going to be over here. Hammer would have been then changed into Josh King. Unfortunately, that's what happens when you're the fantasy coach. Sometimes things just don't go your way. Is what it is. Super unfortunate. But I just can't make a trade into Josh King, and I think this is definitely the last week I could have got him in. But overall, the team has been doing okay. We captain Payne Haas. Haas is doing alright. Starling, bit of an average performance on the back of the Raiders, not doing that well against the Seagulls. That's never good. Curran 51. Max King seems to be killing it. Nanai, Fifita, Schneider, Mann, Aitken, Tago, Papenhuyzen, Teddy. Can't really complain. Randall did a great job. Jack Bird could have got more, but we saw the St. George got absolutely flogged from the Eels. Billy Walters, I'm moving into the interchange this week. I did have Leo Thompson and Tuilagi, but because Billy's coming back in the starting spot, and maybe if Albert Kelly has a few weeks off, we might see those plus 40 scores come up again. Brodie Jones, spoke about him last week. Really wanted to bring him in. We know he's got that starting spot there for a while with the suspensions and injuries in that squad. We're yet to see that pay off. See that comes through. Lachlan Ilias, I think that was his highest score, 33. Still very, very below par. Is what it is. But look, the only trade I've made this week is bringing in Coates, and that's because there's not a lot of good value for wing fullbacks below 400 grand. I did have a quick look around, and there's no one who I really wanted to bite the bullet for and move in for the Hammer. Kind of sucks to be in that position because I kind of was avoiding Coates at the start of the year for the very obvious reasons that I don't know if he's that big of a fantasy scorer. In the first couple of weeks, it looked evident. Then he had that big breakout. Well, not big breakout. 48 points. It's okay. It's pretty solid for a winger, not going to lie, but you know it's in line with what Teddy is, and he's like double the price almost, or they're just about. But look, the team has potential to do extremely well. If I pick the right captain, if Haas doesn't get the suspension that looks to be inevitable with the whole Kelly punch-up, stepping on his shoes. First of all, can I just say, I don't even know how this becomes an NRL integrity problem. You've got Taylor May. He's got an assault charge coming up, going into court. He's playing, no questions asked. And they get suspended close to the court date, whatever. And you got Payne, Haas, and Albert Kelly. Problems between teammates where a half punch holding the shirt was seen on camera and uploaded to the internet. Like, mate, there must be that many bigger dramas and issues in the NRL for that to be the actual course of action is crazy. But I really hope all the coaches out there have been doing well. I'd like to know what your trades are this week. I think this week, this year, this first couple of weeks in fantasy has been extremely hard. And I just want to call out or look at the first player or the first coach here right now, all out NRL Fantasy. Right now, squad value, team value is 11.38 mil. Extremely high. So it's got Randall, Mann. Mann's been killing it. Murray, Haas, Aitken, Jack Bird. Man, it's crazy to see that he's got two edges there. What he must have been planning was potentially pushing in more edge players than pushing out the centers if they didn't pan out, and everyone's panned out for him. Moses, Schneider, Burton, Tago, Crichton, Papenhuyzen, Nico Hines, Thompson, Starling, King, Nanai. He's got all the right ingredients and all the tools in the shed to get a great score, and as you can see, it's paid off. You know, there's going to be coaches out there that immediately see this score and like, other teams could be better, but they're not, right? And that's what we kind of have to come to grips with. But the main point is, he's just got this solid squad. Guys that had question marks above them, the Nico Hines, big question mark. Burton, big question mark. Were they going to be doing well in their new squads? How is that all going to fizzle out? And they've killed it. And they've been paying dividends. The biggest one for me is Crichton because, you know, I think it was 350 grand, 345 grand, and he's already made that 160 grand, you know. Absolute phenomenal season for Crichton off the bat. We know he had those big scores in him, but man, it's just when you know 50% of coaches out there own him and you don't, and they've done well, that really hurts because that means you've lost out whatever you've had to fill the gap in for that role. Made a lot of money already, but it is what it is, guys. In terms of insight, I think the biggest trade in this week has been Talatau. I saying this as well in the Supercoach video. I'm skeptical. There's not much data out there about Talatau playing in the center position. I think I saw 2 games, and they were somewhat abysmal scores in games. He is going to become dual position, so maybe that's going to be weighing on people's heads if they want to bring him in. The reality is, I said this at the start of the year, anyone who's been watching me, I get extremely suspicious about centers in fantasy. Not second rollers that play center, but genuine centers who play center spot, because they can just have a game where they don't get the ball much, or their team's defending a lot because they've given a lot of penalties and the opposition's running the ball up the middle, and so the outside edge men, like his centers, aren't getting any defensive base stats. You know, they are playing the Tigers this week, so if Talatau is going to go big, it's probably going to be against the Tigers more than any other team in the competition right now. But I can see this just going twofold and people just trying to force that trade in, burn a trade, and then get burnt themselves. Whereas there are other players like Fifita that people, highly traded out because he's going to lose money again this week. But all it takes is for these guns to have, one big round, and everyone's jumping back on him. So, I think the main message I want to push out week 5, going into week 5, is hold your guns, have faith in what you've built. Don't just be trading out players because they just haven't got the scores that you wish. Don't be trading in players that have got the scores on a whim, just because you think that that's going to be them for the rest of the year. Because often or not, just because a player has 1 to 2 good weeks in a row doesn't make that the new standard for them. There's got to be a good amount of research by yourself. Why has that happened? Have they now got it in a starting role? Are they now playing outside a half that's going to be fed a lot more ball and loves to draw their center in? Like, there's got to be an educated reason. But keeping this video short, sharp, before midnight. I hope you enjoy it. Hopefully you guys push some higher scores next week. Have a bit of a deeper dive into the analysis side of it next week, when I think it's going to cook up. I think we're going to see week 5 into 6. That's usually when we start seeing a lot more movement with players coming out of the woodwork or injuries popping up and, potential cash cows coming in. But we'll keep it short, sharp, to the point this week. I hope you're all having a good one, and take care. Whoosh.